just going down the line, can y'all introduce yourselves? Let them know who you are, who you play, starting with Zach.
Hey everybody, I'm Zach Tyler Eisen. I was the voice of Aang.
Hello, Zuko here. What's up, you guys? I'm Dante Bosco. Hello, I'm Jack DeSena. I was the voice of the mean sarcasm guy. Just a guy with a boomerang, Sokka.
Hi, I'm Janet Varney. I got to do the voice of Korra in The Legend of Korra, and thank you. I co-host the Avatar podcast, Braving the Elements with Dante Bosco.
Hello, I'm Greg Baldwin, and I do an impression of Mako Iwamatsu.
Greetings, peasants. It is I, the Fire Lord Azula speaking. I'm Grey Delisle, and I'm a people person. Hello, I am your favorite Kyoshi warrior, Suki, aka Jenny Kwan. My name is Olivia Hack. I voice Ty Lee, and your auras are all very pink.
Please tell me you're all here to kill me. Airbender.
Hello, I'm Andre Solyusa, and I am the voice of Hakoda, as well as King Boomy, everybody!
So, very quick, I'm just gonna address this Sky Bison in the room. There is a new show coming called Seven Havens,
Yes.
right? We're gonna ask one question about that show, and then I don't want to hear it. All right, we get one, because there's these things called NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. All right, which means whether or not they're involved in it, they're not allowed to talk about it. Okay, so I'm just gonna ask, plain and simple, if you were to be in the show, what kind of character would you like to play?
Firebender.
Yeah.
Just like a respectful consumer of cabbages. I don't wreck the car, I don't make a mess, I'm here for a nice dish, and I'll walk away polite.
Greg and I want to be the we want to do the Ember Island players.
Yeah, in the Netflix show, yeah, we
if
want
they
to
go
be-
to Ember Island, we thought we should be the Ember Island
But,
players.
you know, never, it would be a great idea, but studio executives, you can always
They
count on them to
never-
have the call.
They'll never go with a great idea.
No, not gonna happen. I wouldn't mind voicing a villain, though.
Yeah,
Because my
villain.
roles, you know, a villain would be kind of fun.
Okay. Just how did you get involved in the show in the first place?
I mean, we all
Audition?
got involved kind of at the same time, just in the traditional actor process. You audition, you don't really know what the thing is you're auditioning for or how big it's going to be, and yeah, I don't know, right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
was
just-
the fourth person cast as Aang, I believe. There were a few before me that it didn't work out.
That's right.
That was
Yeah.
the most untraditional thing, I guess. But otherwise, yeah, audition process, same thing.
There's so many stage moms like shaking their kid after that, like, why didn't you do it better? What did you do? You could have been Aang. Anyway, sorry. Only Azula's mother. Oh, yeah, anyway.
That's awesome. So.
Currently going to get a turtle duck on me tattoo. So what creature from Avatar would you get tattooed if you could or have you?
Momo.
I think the only one with an avatar tattoo here is Greg Baldwin, right, Greg?
Show 'em, Greg.
I also have Clone Wars and Fallout Wars. I'm branding myself. I'm shameless, but we should say.
Greg has a White Lotus tattoo.
I would get Appa, but specifically Sokka's terrible bug drawing of
I'm getting like knuckle tattoos, Appa, Momo.
Figure has the most punchable face. And Avatar The Last Airbender for Korra.
Thorn shade.
I mean, I would say Zuko.
Okay, all right.
I already got
He
him.
breaks up with me because he's not bright.
Punchable face.
Punchable face.
I thought you said punctual face, and I was like, I'm very punctual. We're the perfect party guests. I like that answer, Greg. Way to turn it around.
Well, I'm going to answer the earlier question first, which is, who is my favorite creature? Of course, it's Flopsy. I mean, come on, people, wake up. And I would love a full Flopsy like onesie sort of, sleeping gear to sleep in. I would love that. Punchable face? I don't know. I don't want to punch anybody in the face.
Just Nazis.
I'll say it's a very handsome face. So mostly not punchable, but there are moments I wanted to knock the pistol right out of Jet's mouth.
Thank you for your question.
My brother Ozai has a very punchable face.
Don't talk about my father that way. You're a quitter and a loser.
And you're crazy and need to go down.
Understanding the way that the original series unfolded, which member of the original gang do you believe's character development was most required to provide Aang with what he needed to defeat Ozai?
Are you guys saying Zuko?
I understand that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Let's ask Aang. Let's ask Aang. Who do you think, Aang? It was your journey.
It's tough because I really want to say Aang himself because he had to do it, but I know that's not what you're asking. It took a lot from Zuko.
I mean, someone had to teach you firebending. Someone had to teach you firebending.
Yeah, but I think if we're talking about Zuko, a lot of the credit there goes to Iroh, right?
True.
So,
That's a good
Aang
answer.
couldn't have done it without the help of his
Iroh.
friends, without Iroh. Oh man.
Nothing for the cabbage merchant? Nothing at all.
Listen, my man, this goes to you. That's a great question. I had the pleasure of talking to you about your stories that you've created in this universe. If you guys get a chance to talk to him,
He's
come up
amazing.
with some incredible Avatar-related lore.
Thank you so much. Just, you guys saying that means the world to me. Just to be another nerd up here and to hear
Oh, we
such
appreciate
praise
it.
from what I've, produced in my
We
We
appreciate
appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
So when you were filming, are there scenes that you didn't think much of when doing them, but actually became iconic for your character?
I remember getting the script for season 3, episode 1, and seeing what we all now know as Flamio Hotman, but being extremely confused as to what it was. That was like, I remember getting into the booth and I was talking to Mike and Brian saying, "What is Flameo Hotman? Like, what is this?" And then once they explained it to me, it made sense. And time has shown that it's become one of Flameo. Actually, it's Flameo. It's become one of the more iconic lines in the series. Yeah. At least in my opinion.
I would say most of the things that are like things that get quoted back, you don't at the time of saying it think you're going to say it for 20 years. There's no. But, for example, my first girlfriend turned into the moon. That's rough, buddy. Like that's just a scene, though. You just say it. No idea.
And there's a moon cosplay over there that's freaking
Amazing.
Yue.
Shout out to Yue. Yes,
Yue in the house.
And Yue's real name is Snow. What? Is that the best? Her name is Snow.
Thank you
The
so
other
much for
answer
the
to
question.
that, not connected to Avatar necessarily, but as Gray mentioned earlier, she and I were both on the original Clone Wars micro-series, and I was the OG of everybody, Fordo, Typho, Rex, all the droids, and because it's a clone army, but the thing about being a clone is get out of the way. It's really about Star Wars. So I was doing very little as possible, and Fordo on the page was just like, one on the Raptors, one on the roof, yes commander, no commander. But then when I saw the series, I was like, oh my God, he's so badass, but you don't feel it because I was doing so little. I was always very insecure, am I doing enough? But now, like, the clones are just so iconic and have such an impact, but it's not because of what I'm doing, it's the bigger tableau. So yeah, with what we do, sometimes you don't know until you see the animation, this is an iconic moment, but the lines may not give you that.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
If voice acting and acting in general wasn't an option, what would have been your dream job?
Well, I went and did it.
therapist.
Yeah, I got my master's in social work.
Yeah.
And for 10 years, I've been a practicing therapist.
Yay!
We love cricket.
Azula should have stayed friends
Is that
with
your
you.
dream job?
Well, I
I mean, it was the only other thing that I had like a passion for, which was just helping people. And by the way, just being like such a nosy human, I was like, well, what is your husband doing? Like, what's he doing that's annoying you? Well, why is he doing that? Because he could have slept there. Well, he could have put the pillow on. Well, he should have put the air machine. Like, I was just like so laser focused on solutions for people that it was annoying. But it was great for therapy. And I mean, not everyone needs a solution, right? You just want to process. But learning and doing that, and now it's been 10 years and I'm slowly backing a little away from that and getting a little bit back into creativity, playwriting, doing more voiceover. So that's my dream.
Yeah. And also, will you follow me on Spotify and I'll give you an Azula sticker at my table? It's big, but I'm a songwriter and a singer, and that's my whole other life. So come to my table. You don't have to buy anything. Just follow me on. Just go. I'm following on Spotify, and I'll run you a sticker out. You don't even have to wait in line. Just go. Great, Spotify, and I'll run out there.
Gray's amazing. Gray is one of those people who just can't stop making art and creating, and she's just a genius.
Absolutely.
I would like to be, I don't know if you've ever heard the story of Daniel Day-Lewis, who just quit acting. Well, supposedly he quit recently, but that's not true, we know. He just did quit for a couple of years and went to Florence to learn to make shoes. Like, he had everything in the world, decided to be an Italian shoemaker. Yeah, so I have the similar fantasy. I would like to become a Neapolitan pastry chef, you know, just for a little while, just to know how to do it. But as a job, I'm sure it's really exhausting, early morning hard work. But yeah,
pastries.
but I would like to just be so rich and eccentric that I just disappeared to Naples for 3 years to become an expert pastry chef.
That sounds wonderful.
You know, I think I'd either like to be a TV weatherman or President of the United States of America.
Thank God, yes.
Both are great. Thank you for the
I was
question.
so pretty. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the question.
Thank you, that was awesome.
Also,
But what are your guys' favorite songs?
Like ever?
Ever.
I mean, Led Zeppelin, Going to California is my maybe number one of all time.
It's not bump and grind.
Oh my God! Zuko, that's our song. How dare you?
I like George Jones. He stopped loving her today.
Oh,
It's a really good, sad.
I like Moon River. It's about nothing, it's about everything.
Yes.
Genuine My Pony.
Oh my God!
Yes.
That song, man.
Did Jack say that? Oh, who said that?
Zach.
Zach, yes.
My
Zach.
pony.
Yes.
I'll sing it for you later if you like.
I'm waiting, yes.
All right, thank you for the question.
Favorite song?
Now, you asked me that question earlier. I gave you one. I'll give you part two, which would be same artist, Cat Stevens. If you want to sing out, sing out.
Love Cat Stevens. Love him. Thank you. I love that question. That was fun.
If you guys could give any advice to somebody who is beginning voice acting, what advice would you give?
Be a celebrity.
Ouch.
No, I'm a little bitter. There's a lot of celebrities taking over right now.
What I would say is, first of all, take a class. And I always say not to find out what you don't know, but maybe find out what you already do know and didn't know that you did. And take a class where you can hear not just yourself back, but the other students as well. Because that sort of healthy competition is a really good learning tool. Sometimes you hear somebody and you think, they suck, I can be better than that. Or you think, wow, they're really good, I want to be that good. And then finally, some of the legends post-pandemic are teaching on Zoom, so it doesn't matter where you live. All of you should just get to Charlie Adler. Look up that name if you don't know who he is. Charlie's one of the Mount Rushmore, and he's teaching online. And he's also insane and wonderful and also brutally honest. So you can trust what he says. That's one person I could refer you to. I don't know, is Andrea teaching?
No, Steve Bloom. Steve Bloom's teaching.
Yeah, so there's a few of them. You know, look, and that would be my first step is, and secondly, always be doing, even if you're not being paid. Long before I was being paid to be a voice actor, I was an unemployed actor making really elaborate phone machine messages. But I would do take after take to get it right. By the time I was being paid, I already had experience like correcting myself. So just the more you do, the better. It's like working out at the gym.
Awesome. Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Something you would change, or if you could explore more with your characters in the show?
don't know. What do you think? I mean, I would have liked to see more Sokka and Zuko. I feel like there was a beautiful relationship there.
Romance, for
You know,
sure.
it was just coming together at the end, so it didn't get explored as fully.
I like to see them go out drinking, you know.
So you guys feel like you didn't get enough time together? That's rough, buddies.
That's right. A good date. I mean, I don't know.
We were just starting to hit it
We're
off.
just, he gets all the girls, maybe, they go out.
You did okay, though.
I did all right. Hi, May. I did all right. I wonder what happened to Jen in Boston Say.
That's a good first date.
It was a good first date. It was a great first date. I don't know what happened to that girl. He could be like, let's go find her.
Yeah.
How about group therapy for the two of you guys?
Yes.
You gotta work out the whole girlfriend
A lot of
thing.
dads,
Girlfriend problems,
Parents problems.
parental problems, So yes, we have some things to work on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
If air bison were real, A, would you ride one? And B, where would you most want to go?
Well, I would just want to snuggle with them. I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to hang out and sleep.
It'll be the last airline that doesn't charge you for baggage. Southwest finally sold their souls. All we have now is air bison.
It is funny because you think about it, the air bison, which I love, Appa's definitely amazing. But you're like, would you ride it? You're like, yeah, think about that for a second.
It's terrible. You're just in a
You just make me think about it for real. Like when I'm on a horse, I'm like, damn, this horse is crazy.
And like there's turbulence, and then also it's just breathing.
It's breathing.
Definitely smells.
I would ride it, but I'd be like, Appa, not too high. You know what I'm saying?
Just real low.
Like low, like Land Cruiser. Can we Land Cruiser the situation?
Upper 1 year. Upper year.
1 year. Because
Also, like no pressurized cabin, like
you definitely need a fur coat or this cold up there.
in your mouth.
No, he keeps you warm.
Body? Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
But I would say let's keep it low, Appa.
Keep it low.
Let's keep it low. Just keep it hovering around the ground.
I like Nago. I'd ride Nago. Just ground
Nago's
level's
cool.
great. Ground level,
level's good.
fantastic.
If Boston Say, Air Temple, the Water Tribe, and Fire Nation were real places in real life, which place would you like to live in outside of your character right now?
Great places in the Fire Nation, you guys. There's so many nice places to visit. Capital City is awesome. I'm just letting you guys know. Ember Island, of course.
Ember Island.
The vacation in Ember Island is no better place than that.
Totally. I think I'd be partial to Boston Say just as a city boy, but honestly, I think the serene life in the air temples would just be incredible. It would do wonders for your skin.
I'd go Boston Say. Seems like a great food culture, and also
Great tea shop. Great
and
tea shop.
there's no war there, which
There's
is
no
great.
war in Boston Say.
It's really cool.
And the casinos in Boston.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
next question.
Whatever.
Been following your career since the debut days. We actually, my husband and I, we both just saw Asian vs. Asian last week.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
So pick this out again. Screen you guys must watch.
Nice.
So, what do you prefer? Because, you have been on live, movies and anime. So do you prefer acting? Or what's...
It's all acting, by the way.
I mean, a lot of us do voice acting and on screen and theater, and really what it comes down to, I think all actors is really about being a part of a great story. If you have the good fortune in your career to be a part of a great story and have a great character, that's what it's really about. And so if it comes in films or television or animation or theater, it's just good luck on our part to be a part of it all. So I've been lucky in my life to have a few touchstone characters for certain generations, and so I feel honored. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question.
Yes.
How did Avatar help you guys in your everyday life? What were the life lessons?
It's helping me put my children through college. My everyday life.
Everything Iro has ever said, I think has been
And,
so
the
important.
wonderful thing is about Iro, because I've memorized so many of the quotes because people want the quotes. So to have all of those quotes floating around in my head, I cannot tell you how many times in my own life I have leaned on the wisdom of Uncle Iro. I tell the story, we had moved to New Mexico away from Los Angeles, and when we arrived there, COVID hit like 2 weeks later. And I distinctly remember I was going out for a walk, and I was freaking out because, oh my God, we've left our children, on either coast, there's no toilet paper, we're all gonna die, this is terrible, oh no! And I very, very clearly heard Iroh's, voice in my head, and doing the line I mentioned earlier. If you look for the light, you will often find it. If you look for the dark, that is all you will ever see. And ever since then, that's sort of been my own touch point, because on the one hand, it's a way of just saying, try to stay positive, but it's deeper than that, I think, because it also involves an active choice. If you look for the light, you have to make the conscious decision to look for the light, and once you do, good heavens, the light is all around us. We're enveloped by light. Even at nighttime, you can look up into the sky and see lights. So yeah, Iro has, he has helped me many, many, many times. My wife tells me that, and it's one of the kindest things she ever said, that the longer I sort of live in this Iro-adjacent world, the more I'm actually starting to embody the character. To embody Iro, which is, there's worse people to embody, what I'm saying? And I definitely embody him in one way.
After prison, though, after prison.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I was in a low point when I booked it because I had been dropped by an agent who said I sounded like a broken violin playing. A big agent. I know. I was like, oh, okay. Oh my God. And so I called an old friend and I was like, should I just give this up? Like, it's fine. I'll do something else. They were like, no, keep going, find a new agent. And I was like, oh, okay. And I booked this and I was like, well, okay. And I was really like, I thought I kind of sucked, and it's fine. There are times you think that, and times you do. And Andrea was just so encouraging. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna believe what this lady believes, and she looks like she knows something, and that helped. I mean, obviously, I then ended up getting confidence and loving that show and doing other things, but she knew what she was doing, and so that it taught me the life lesson to just believe in myself in a way, and the weird violin or the raspiness or the things that were a problem for some people were not a problem for her, and so it kind of was okay.
Ultimately, the way it's helped me in my everyday life, again, as I said earlier, more recently, in the fact that it's now allowed me to come to more of these conventions to meet all of you. And that has been a tremendous gift over the past decade, and the feedback and the impact that I hear from you about being a part of your happiness has been a real wonderful gift that I get to experience all the time. So before this show turned into kind of the experience that it is for everybody, I wasn't going to as many cons, and they weren't letting me play with the other children as much, but I do a lot of different things, but this show has gotten me out to you guys, and so it means the world to me for that reason.
Awesome, thank you so much for your question.
Obviously in Avatar, the Cabbage Man was just a street merchant, constantly getting his produce destroyed by you guys.
I'm sorry, what did he say when he gave us
what did he say? Cabbages! So I was wondering, how do you guys think he went from just being a street merchant to having this huge corporation that rivals future industries in Florida?
He's a hustler. He's a hustler, that guy.
He collected insurance every time he lost his cabbages, so
There you go.
He wanted us to ruin his cabbages. It was an insurance scam.
a cabbage racket.
Oh my.
In the Avatarverse, cabbages are so valued. Such a valuable piece of produce.
Did we also hear, don't they credit him in the Ember Island Player episode that, a lot of the sources that they use to write them? So I'm guessing he got a piece of that.
Oh, for sure. He's everywhere.
Yeah.
And he was also an informer, I think, because he was trying to, tell on everybody.
Informing a little bit.
That being said, I love him.
Yes, we love it. And I'm glad you brought a fake cabbage, even though it looks perfectly real. A lot of people bring real cabbages up to the table, and they're so stinky.
Yeah, for a long time he was carrying around real cabbages at cons, and it was a little disgusting by the end of the day. Now he has a very lovely rubber cabbage that looks very realistic,
But
and
we love
it's fresh as a daisy.
James is our favorite.
Shout out to James.
And
if you didn't know this, he plays the Cabbage Merchant in the live action.
Yes. Which you should all watch. If you've been hesitating,
We can't stand each other, but we do love James.
We love James. And he writes beautiful YA novels.
Yes,
so
he
you should read
does.
those. He's brilliant.
What was it like working with Mark Hamill?
Well, as a former Star Wars nerd boy and occasional Star Wars nerd boy now, oftentimes you come into a session, you don't know who's going to be there. I mean, sometimes I would get the script in advance, but again, I wasn't so in following the whole show all the time that I didn't know who he played or what was going on. So, you know, I just sort of walked into the studio because Boomy isn't with him until the very end of the series. So I suddenly walked in and I'm like, it's Mark Hamill! And now he was sitting behind me. So when we all work, it just depends where you're sort of seated. We're all isolated, so there's no overlap. But oh yeah, I was completely like, oh my God, yeah. But so I know we're in the same scene together, but I never actually looked at Mark while working. But no, it was a total thrill.
Yeah, when I worked with him, the door opened and like mist came through the room, and there was a man in all black, head to toe black, and I was like, in my mind, that's Mark. He's my father, and then he floats across the room, and then we do this whole thing. He yelling at me, he scars me. I'm like, father, no father.
You were like,
the whole thing, and then he just,
Mark, you're my father.
yeah. Then he just kind of floats out of the room on the mist, and it's just a wild experience. That's it.
Well, we got action figures for this show. Somebody looked at me and said, Mark, isn't it amazing we're going to be action figures? Can you imagine how cool it's going to be to be an action figure? He was the original action figure.
When you guys got the role, did you guys think this show would blow up like it did?
Yes.
When she first got Cora, I was like, oh my God, because we're really good friends. We were really good friends before that and after. But when she got the part, I was like, we're going to do so many cons together. We can share a hotel room. And now we're so tired at the end of the night that we're like, I love you. I can't even go to dinner with you. I'm going to go to sleep right now.
It's great.
No, we had no idea the show was gonna. I mean, I don't think any of us had any idea the show was gonna be what it became. I thought it was cool when we were doing it.
Yeah. Well, and also when you get cast, like some of the things that made the show so special were not immediately clear in a audition or even in like a pilot script. Like you don't know immediately how deep we're going to get into the world, how serialized the show is going to be, which was so exceptional for a kid's show at the time. So you don't really know. A lot of the elements that make it special aren't present in that 5 pages of sides. So you go like, this is cool art style. When we saw the pilot, I remember starting to go like, oh, something.
You're like 20 years later.
20 years later.
We're gonna be at cons. It's gonna be crazy. In Vegas, people would be screaming.
Yeah.
The story I always tell is that I was at some session when it went on Netflix, and the director's like, so Jenny, how does it feel to be on the #1 show on Netflix? And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, Avatar. And I was like, I guess I should post about it. He's like, they don't need any help. I was like, oh, okay, sorry. And so here we are today, still doing all this kind of fun stuff with you guys. I reused a voice that I've done.
I would have to say that when we do a show, I can speak for most actors, you know when you have a good script in front of you. Good writing just pops. But the effect, so you have fun doing that show while you're doing it. You get a great team of actors. We had the wonderful Andrea Romano directing us. So we knew it was a really good project. But the impact something has on all of you, we don't really know. And even as she said, someone said, how does it feel to be on the #1 show? Honestly, that had zero impact on me or my career for years until you guys came of age to share with us what the show meant to all of you. And also the fact that it now is on Netflix, you who have kids can show your kids what you grew up watching. I didn't watch Nickelodeon, so the impact was kind of lost on me until really within the past 10 years, when I get the feedback from the fans and I see the effect that it had culturally and spiritually on many of you. And that's really wonderful for all of us. So yeah, we don't know, but we just hope something
blossoms, and this certainly did.
You know, I think one of the reasons the show is so, this resurgence of the show's popularity, it's no secret that we live in increasingly dark times. And Iro says, if you look for the light, you will often find it. And I think for millions of people, including us, this show is one of those points of light in a dark time that we can look at and feel hope, if nothing else, you know?
I reused I was Padme Amidala on the original Clone Wars series for Cartoon Network. So I had just been playing her when I had this audition. So I was like, Senator Palpatine, I need to speak with you. So she kind of had that kind of voice. And then I was like, oh, well, here's another princess audition. And I just played a princess. I'll just use that voice again. I'll make it a little bit different. And I was like, I mean, what's going to happen? This is going to become like a giant thing. Nobody's ever going to hear this. And I was like, oh. Anyway, so.
That's great.
Little do we know. Yeah.
So Padme is Azula? What?
Yeah, That's my Padme voice from the original Clone Wars.
I gotta go rewatch that.
Yes, it's very good. It's very good.
Well, you guys, so my question is, what type of bender would you be in real life, and which sub-element would you want to master, or are you just good with being on bender, like Sokka?
It's an honor. It's an honor.
He's a boomerang bender.
I think Ty Lee is one of the most powerful non-benders because she can take away bending, so it's kind of like up here, blood bending's kind of cool, but I don't know. That's like black magic. I know.
Fire bending, of course.
Some of us don't have to choose, right, Janet?
That's right, some of us don't.
I'm a truth bender.
Elbow bit.
Thank you for your question.
Wondering when or how long it took you to practice saying Bonju's full name, and if possible, if you could say it for us.
It's not in there. I will need help. Bonzu, Pippipaddleopadopoulos the third. I know that's wrong, but it's close.
Pippin-Paddleoxacopolis.
No, hello. It's Mr. Pippipaddleoxacopolis.
Braving the Elements, my friend.
Really channeling the spirit world there.
And
that was a tough one.
There was a cosplayer
I
here.
saw. I did an incredible job yesterday.
I was like,
don't know
you're the
if
first
you're
Mr. Papadopoulos I've seen.
No, I had to ask them to say it because I just couldn't do it. But no, again, we've mentioned Andrea Romano many times during this panel, who was our voice director. Credit goes to her for walking me through that. It was not easy. Yeah.
What's funny is when that scene happened, I hadn't actually really done my homework before the session, really, and I think I skipped over the part where you say it outside the gate. So suddenly I show up in the studio, and I actually, fortunately, nailed it on the first take. And I thought, what a weird thing for this guy to say to this kid, like, "Hello, Mr. Pippin-Paddleoxacopolis. What do you have to say for yourself?" And so it was very funny. But I thought, well, I guess one of the writers is Greek or something. I didn't know, But yeah, so I had no challenges with that.
I would have been how long it took me.
Incredible.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Airbender is well known for its rich story and emotional impact on the part of your guys' great voice acting. Given that the show has some incredibly emotional and tough moments, how did you guys, anyone, get into the mindset of some of the most deeply impacting moments? For example, Ray, during Azula's breakdown.
I was fine. I didn't have a breakdown. Just one bad haircut. That's all.
Look up personality disorder. We'll be fine.
I needed an Iro in my life and some medication, and I would have been fine.
I ran away and froze myself in an iceberg for 100 years to prepare for the role.
I think we were so lucky because the stories were written so beautifully, and like we've been saying over and over again, the direction that we were given and just how we collaborated or brought our acting to it was
We
just
all recorded together, which makes every scene, and when you're acting with another actor, as opposed to acting alone, it flows so much better, and you can connect so much better and really be in the moment of that. For sure.
And the way that they wrote these universal things that humans go through, it just made it easier to jump into these deep subjects without having to really do anything more than we needed to do except tell the story. So we were very, very lucky with that.
I mean, we're actors, but there's a lot of trauma. I mean, I think with Zuko, he's become a special character for a lot of people because he really got to go through his abuse and his trauma and get to the other side and even get into the place where he can really confront his abuser, which a lot of us that have been through abuse don't get to do. And so myself, like many people out there, have gone through a lot of abuse and trauma, and even while I was doing the show, so tapping into that, I think a lot of that is in the DNA of Zuko, and so it's one of the reasons why I think the character becomes special to myself and to others.
Thank you. That was a beautiful answer. Thank you so much.
Quick thing, Dante, one of my coworkers sounds exactly like you.
Really?
Whoa!
Stole my voice.
Favorite season. My favorite season is season 3 because to me it just all leads up to season 3, right? And that's when it just like is on fire nonstop.
Yes.
My favorite episode, The Beach, is in season 3. Like and it's all about that finale.
Book of Fire. Book of Fire, Olivia. You're right. The season of Fire is the best season.
I would agree, season 3, and I think that the finale was as perfect as a finale could be, and I really think, I wish the writers from Game of Thrones maybe had learned a lesson from the writers of Avatar: The Last Airbender in terms of how to end the show properly.
They learned other things from our show. Bringing back dragons, stealing faces, all kinds of stuff.
Starbucks toast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
So
so
it's
much for
Book
that
of
question.
3, Fire. I think that was the
Hey,
answer.
Sokka, what's up?
Looking good, Sasha.
Sokka. Get out of the bison's mouth. Get out of the bison's mouth, Sokka.
I don't want to be the beach host. But I do have a question. For your character, either interacting with them or for themselves, what was a favorite character development moment that you recorded?
A character developing moment? Is that what you said? Yeah.
I love Sokka's Master, the episode where he gets his sword. I think that's just a beautiful meditation on the way that we sometimes can't see our own value in the world, and that everyone around him sees what he brings to the table, and he has to go off to discover it for himself. I think there's some really beautiful stuff there, and it's a lovely episode.
You know, a moment I really like about Iroh, because Iroh seems to be this kind, old, lovable old man that sits around, just drinking tea and spouting wisdom all day. But in the prison scene, when he becomes ripped Iroh, you realize how badass this guy actually is. So I like that.
Same episode, by the way. Same episode. Yeah. That sucked.
Same episode? Dragon Dance.
Dragon Dance.
Dragon Dance. I understand. I love that clarity. I understand.
Big turning point in the show, too.
Big turning point.
I love that there's a Zuko alone, a Korra alone, and a Zula alone, and a Suki alone. I think that thread running through where you really get to spend time with those characters and understand them and see them go through stuff. I love that thread running through.
I love the beach when May can finally just get really angry. You want to know how I feel? Leave me alone. She finally gets mad like that.
I like when Tylee finally turns against Azula because you don't see it coming and she just goes for it, It's unexpected, so that's really fun.
And Azula apologizes to Tylee.
She's the only person
It's
that
us.
ever apologized.
That's why I ship Tyzula.
I ship Tyzula as well.
I don't know if it's necessarily my character development because they got to develop, they got to grow and change. I came in as two crazy grown-ups. Well, Hokoda's not so crazy, so they were kind of already developed who they were. But probably it would be the scene with Hakoda and Katara on board the ship in the rain is a really, really beautiful father-daughter, the kind of sort of life moment that many fathers wish they could have with their daughter and many daughters wish they could have with their father. So the sort of iconic, classic, archetypal moment of that was one of the most beautiful developments in the story that I got to be a part of. But I didn't necessarily change, but the story does, and that's really wonderful.
That was perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
so much.
It looks like